the first thing, typically we'll get a call from a business owner and they'll say, I'm interested in selling my business. We'll go meet with them when we can. Pre-COVID, it was a requirement we had, but in the middle of COVID, sometimes we can't meet with them physically, and we'll get them a checklist of information to begin to gather. Now, this checklist of information is pretty detailed, because we know that going through this process, there's going to be a point at which a buyer, their CPA, and a lender are going to want to know what makes this business tick. So we get the seller to gather this checklist of information and pull that together so that we can help that seller begin to move forward. Let's go on to the next one there, Amy. Once we have those in-depth numbers, which do come from tax returns, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, those kinds of things, we'll do a recast of the financials. Now, one of the things I've learned is we speak a different language than most people do. So let me define recast for you. One of the things we can't find, Amy, is a business owner who on April 15th raises her hand and says, can I pay some more taxes? So they don't want to do that. They want to minimize their taxes. So they will take every legitimate expense that they can and run it through the company, even though that expense may not be directly related to the operation of that business. So in other words, it becomes a discretionary item. So we'll go back through with the seller's help and identify these discretionary items and add them back to create the cash flow of the business. So we do the recast. Next slide. John, why don't you talk about internal due diligence? You and I talked about it this morning.
Yeah. So the next part of that for us is to share that information with the rest of our team. As Carl said earlier, as many folks as we have on our team now, it's interesting that almost every time we've got somebody on our team that has either sold a business like that or owned a business like that or ran a business like that. And so we talk about the different aspects of that business, what we think a range of value is, what the universe of buyers looks like, how we would, potential ways that we would market that company and find that perfect buyer. And so that's done as a team. Next part there.
Sometimes easier said than done. Cursors are, cursed sometimes.
Yeah, that's why they call them that.
Yeah, there you go.
So this kind of ties in with what I was saying before, and just doing our assessments and analyze the marketability. It's easier to sell a tech company than it is a buggy whip company. And so you kind of have to figure out, which one is which. We can move to the next slide there if the cursor agrees. We'll create that marketing strategy. So one size doesn't fit all when it comes to marketing a business. You would certainly market a auto repair shop differently than you would a tech company in a different way altogether. So we create that marketing strategy that's one-off, that's just for that business. And sometimes that'll include trade magazines or trade associations or whatever those things are for that individual business. Carl?
Well, once we've done that, we will bring the seller in or Zoom with the seller, kind of go over our findings, the strengths and weaknesses that we've located in the business, and then we'll interview the seller. Now, those of you who are thinking about selling, don't get scared here. We want to get inside your mind and your heart and find out where you want to be and figure out if we can lay out a plan to help you achieve your goals. So we have 26 different questions on that seller interview to probe into your motivation and what you're planning on doing post-closing, those kinds of things, because we know that certainly on Main Street, this is typically a very difficult thing for most business owners. So there's some psychology involved in this as we want to understand that. So we share the seller. Seller sometimes fills in some gaps of things that we might have missed, and that's really helpful for us. So doing that brings the seller solidly on board, and they understand the path that we're going to lay out for them. Next slide, Amy. We talked about the custom marketing above, and that custom marketing, we're very fortunate in that we have marketed, golly, I have no idea how many different kinds of businesses. but we create that plan for each one. A quick story for you. Several years ago, I listed a hardwood flooring business for sale, very good one. And in this particular business, I was trying to figure out unique ways of marketing it very quickly. Well, I found out that there was a hardwood flooring society. And so when I did, I contacted them, and they had a bulletin board. I said, may I post this business for sale? Now, it's a generic listing, so nobody could tell where the business was located, just that there was a hardwood flooring business for sale. An international board. Well, that day that I posted it on the board, I got a call from Springdale, Arkansas, from a guy who manufactured sanders for the hardwood flooring. And he saw it on that bulletin board and immediately called, and he bought the business. So everything is customized. And we don't do what our real estate friends do. They go out and put a sign out in front of the business or in front of a piece of property and hope everybody sees it. Well, we can't do that, because if the employees, if the customers, if the vendors find out a business is being sold, it can hurt that business drastically. So everything that we do is confidential and generic so that we can bring the best buyers in. Next slide, Amy. John, pick it up from there.
Yeah, so part of that customized marketing is once they've hired us to represent them, then we're going to create a couple of documents. One is the blind profile that Carl was talking about. And it is what we advertise with, and it never says the name or even the location of the company. It might say, auto repair dealership located in Ozark Town or whatever. And so it's all blind, and then people would inquire off of that. The other thing that we create is about a 25 to 35 page document that's full color. It looks like a magazine that is a brochure on that business. It talks about the history of the business. It talks about the owners. It talks about some high level number information, and there's all kinds of information in there about the business and about the market area in which it's located. So we have so many people coming in here from outside. We have a lot of information in there about Northwest Arkansas or Central or wherever the business is located. So when we created that marketing plan earlier, then we activate it. So we say, okay, here's the things we said we were going to do. We start doing